Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light.
Well, what an eventful week at the time we're recording, folks. Obviously, you know, they say new year, new era. Well, this is literally a new me because a part of me is missing. For folks maybe not aware, I've had a wee up at the start of the week, but we're back here for another episode of the Soul Sessions, of course, with your host as always, myself, Soul. But with me today, he is a vanity fella, but he's also the flawless one, Alexander Vane. My friend, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, my friend. But of course, you know, as what I do with every guest, I've done it before and I will continue to do, is every guest has a story and every story has a beginning. Alex, what was your story as at the beginning of yourself as a wrestling fan?
So I got into wrestling in a bit more of an unconventional kind of way. I wasn't like brought up on it by my parents, like watching it on TV. My family did watch it, but I was very, very young when they watched it, so it didn't mean much to me. Like I remember them having a video copy of Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan from like Mania. I think it's Mania 4, isn't it? But it kind of never clicked with me. I was never very sporty. I never got into it, so it just kind of bypassed me quite a lot. And then when I was about maybe like 10 years old, I think I was, I had a friend who I'd see every now and then, and he had a PlayStation 2, and he had SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 on that PlayStation. And he was like, "Oh, do you want to play with me?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, I'll give it a shot." And I remember playing it, and I remember gravitating straight towards Rey Mysterio and Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Those were the three. Don't know why, just straight away. And all we did was play the Hell in a Cell matches, just throw each other off the top. That's all we did. And played it over and over again. And one time it just kind of clicked, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I think I quite like this. Maybe more than the Hell in a Cell, I don't know." So then like a year later, my parents bought me the exact same game on PlayStation, and I started playing it myself. Then I had some action figures, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm in deep now. Let's have a look." And I remember the first year I got into watching wrestling was actually 2008. So it was like tail end with the Ruthless Aggression to like the PG era. And I remember the first full pay-per-view I actually bought and watched straight through live was Mania 24. And it's a fantastic Mania. My God, what a Mania. Underrated. And it just, from there, it just clicked. I was hooked. I got completely pulled in, and I remember backtracking and trying to watch all the old stuff. And yeah, that was my kind of beginning there.
Well, it just shows, you know, it's like a jigsaw pieces. All of it falls together, and then you get the whole picture that is the world of professional wrestling. And it's the joys of the medium. But obviously, the video games in themselves are a great avenue of people to get into them. Obviously, the SmackDown versus Raw series, even look at the old SmackDown series on the original PlayStations. Yeah. Iconic games in itself. Obviously, we have that evolution now with the 2K24 series, which they've obviously announced is going to be 2K25, which is coming out next. It's been announced. Obviously, Roman Reigns is the cover star. Yeah. A lot of people, though, are like, well, what can they add to this? What additions? What new superstars can we see in the game? For yourself, Alex, obviously with 2K25 coming up, is there anything from the past games that you would like to see be reintegrated into the new one?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I know I haven't played them for a while. Like, I think the last one I fully played was like maybe 2K19, maybe, I can't remember. It's been a while, and I know they added general manager mode back in recently, but a lot of people have said the same thing, that it's just not the same. It's not like it's not the same model as like the 2007, 2008 model or 2006 model, which is like the best one. But I also think that like the career modes they did in like SmackDown vs. Raw were so crazy, and they've never really replicated them. Like Candice Michelle turns you into a diva one time. What a turn of events to feud with Edge, like like stuff like that is missing. I think I don't think they've really covered the whole wacky side of wrestling as much in the newer game, which is quite sad, I think. So
It's the bonker worlds of video games, and obviously 2K25 was first really showcased on the Netflix debut of Raw, an exceptional episode. I did want to know your thoughts, Alex. What was your thoughts on WWE's debut on the platform of Netflix?
I mean, I think that's one of the first full episodes of Raw I've watched in quite a long time, and I even watched this week's as well, which says a lot because I don't think I've kept up with Raw other than CM Punk and things like that, because I have to say right now I'm a massive Punk fan. Anyone who actually knows me will just go, yeah, you knew he was going to say that. So that's kind of pulled me back in a little bit. But I thought it was fantastic. It did feel like a spectacle. There wasn't as much kind of wrestling, if that makes sense. Like there were like 4 matches, but I saw a lot of people complaining about that. But I think just because of the camaraderie of the whole thing, I think they can get away with it. I don't think they can get away with it every single week, which they didn't. They kind of pulled it back this week. I found they put more wrestling into it, which I thought was fantastic. You got Penta on the show this week, which was superb, like amazing. So
no, stellar debut as well. But obviously people moan, as they do, the IWC, that they are a big moaning community. A lot of them unhappy with what The Rock did with these apparent build of him and Cody Rhodes since last year's WrestleMania, when they shared each other's belts, and now they're hugging, drinking, and talking about Moana 2. I don't know, Alex. I mean, do you think this is a valid complaint? Do you think it's a valid direction now for what Cody's plans are with, chucking that whole year plot out the window?
I mean, it's a tough one because it's the whole kayfabe conversation, isn't it? It's the whole, is kayfabe still a thing? We don't know. I think the whole thing of last year was Cody needs to finish his story, and that story was winning the championship. And I think at the close of that story, you could make the same argument for him befriending Roman Reigns. You could make the exact same argument. Where do you go from here, though? That's the problem. Like, do you now bring The Rock into feud with someone like Cody, or do you bring him into feud to Roman? Sorry, I don't know. I think it's in wrestling. I think it's kind of through the looking glass now. Like you see a lot of backstage things anyway. Like you see Undertaker backstage with Brock Lesnar from 10 years ago. When they were feuding. I think it's a different world now compared to what it was back in like the 80s, 90s, so.
I think that's a very fair point. And as well, obviously on that Netflix debut, they had that really inspirational video package when it was like the whole curtain was around the ring. And obviously they were using terminology like babyface, heel, shoots and works and all that. Yeah. And I'm sure there's probably some parts of the wrestling community that's blood pressure exploded like my appendix did, of just how, mental that was. Like to hear that, they didn't want to hear that. Do you think, with obviously being, which obviously we'll get into, is obviously a wrestler within the British scene, do you think that really breaks down the true last barriers of, the business and the fan side? Because maybe like you might have a fan come to a show and they obviously now know because WWE have really opened the trash can and everything's out of the bag now. How is your thoughts, obviously, of WWE really breaking down and destroying the kayfabe terminology?
I think, it's the use of. I think it's the specific use of the terminology that's the problem. I think, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. Again, those barriers have been broken down for quite a long time, just not so as in your face as, Triple H saying babyface or heel. But everyone in the IWC will say babyface and heel or tweener or whatever they want to say at that point. So I think it's a fine line between almost having an understanding with someone like Triple H saying it and being like, that's cool. He's saying the words that we say, but also him saying it on a press conference after you've just, done a worldwide sensational show, to then just casually drop in the term babyface or heel. It's kind of, I think it does take away from it a little bit. It kind of removes you from the scenes that they're creating on TV, I find.
It's the way that things work now. That's how they want to build it. That's when they want to thrive it. And, hey, they're the top dogs for the reason, because they do it so well. And they are really good at their product. Obviously, WWE have got WrestleMania 41 in Vegas coming up, but obviously the Road to WrestleMania tour is going to be in Europe. It's coming up to my neck of the woods in Glasgow. It's going down south as well. But obviously, there's been a bit of contention with the ticket prices because, you know, tickets at the Hydro and the nosebleeds are like 200 odd quid. And I mean, like, I like wrestling, but I also like saving my wallet some money as well. Now, obviously, John Cena's been announced for Raw, and he's really making the most out of his time on the product. He's wanting to like be showcased as much and wrestled as much. Do you think with obviously A, how hot WWE is right now as a product, and B, having the anticipation of seeing Cena wrestle gives some validation for these ticket prices in the UK?
I could never justify stupidly high ticket prices when you could go to a really good indie show. Don't get me wrong, you're not going to get John Cena on an indie show, but you could go to a really good local indie show and see some amazing stuff that you might not end up seeing in a WWE show because, you know, you get some more unique things coming across sometimes when you go to a local indie show. I think, you know, I went to Clash at the Castle when it came to Cardiff because obviously I'm in Wales, so it's very not local, but it's close enough. But I literally went last minute and I bought tickets for very, very cheap because they were just filling the seats up by the end. And AEW did similar things. Like they were in Wales for one of their Dynamite shows. I think a lot of people will just kind of flock to obviously the WWE shows because they'll want to see John Cena for what could be his last time in the UK. We don't know. Like they could do a pay-per-view next year, like this year. I was going to say next year, then I was like, oh, 2025. They could do a pay-per-view this year in the UK, like they have done previously, and Cena could be on that card. So you don't know if it's going to be the last time, but for a lot of people, this could be maybe the first and the last time because the last time Cena was in the UK was, I can't even think the last time Cena was in a WWE ring in the UK. It's been that long. So I wouldn't say I justify it, but if people want to do it, I don't blame them, to be honest with you. If I had the money, I would definitely do it.
Absolutely. You know, you're more than happy. Obviously, it's people's money, that's how they wish, but, you know, you could save so much money just watching at home on Netflix with the family and a takeaway. Yeah. If you just want to see wrestling, you've got many indies around the UK that provide that and more, and just a great time for a fraction of the price. You get a good moment and you get a saving in your wallet. I would preferably prefer that as well. Now, obviously, Alex, as I like to say, you know, once a fan, always a fan, but you take the fan step an extra mile by getting into the squared circle yourself. Tell us about that journey. What was it that got you to think, you know what, I like watching on my TV, I want to try and actually get in the ring?
I think we're all mental when we think about it. So, yeah, I watched it for years, and to be honest with you, much like a lot of people with watching wrestling on TV, you kind of have an on-off relationship with it. Like there's some years where you just tune out completely, and then there's another year where you'll tune in. And I remember being very, very in and out of wrestling because I was going to uni and I was doing my exams, and I was just kind of all over the place and, you know, trying to find basically 5 hours a week to watch 2 episodes of a show, maybe a pay-per-view, which was like probably 3 or 4 hours. That was quite a struggle. And I remember there was one storyline that there was one storyline that really pulled me back in, and I was like, I kind of have to see how this plays out. And it was the Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson story from basically going to win the titles at Mania, Mania 30. And I remember the summer before, they were doing the match with him and John Cena. I remember getting really invested and really pulled in, and him obviously getting basically screwed over and over again. And eventually getting to that point of, oh, he's going to beat Triple H at Mania and win the title. And even at that point, still not believing that it was going to happen. I remember watching that. And in my head, I've always been very like a small person. Like I when I was younger, I was very like skinny and like not very athletic, not very sporty. So watching a moment like Daniel Bryan winning that was kind of like, not that I think I'm on the level of Daniel Bryan, but you know what I mean? When you watch something like that, like, oh, the guy who never should have made it, or, you know, the underdog that, you know, no one expected to win. You watch things like that and you go, oh, you know, I'd love to do that. And like that moment really pulled me completely into, I need to do this. And I need to try and do this. but obviously there were barriers in the way of, I moved away to uni and I wasn't, local to anywhere that did wrestling at the time. I went to Aberystwyth, which is in like West Wales. There's nothing there other than the pubs, which is fine if you're a student, not great if you want to be a wrestler. And yeah, a few years went by before I was able to actually look and go. I moved home, and I'm in Swansea, and I finally kind of took the step. It was like 2018, and I finally looked and went, okay, we're going to do it. Like, we're going to give it a shot.
Fair play indeed, my friend. And it's a good journey to make as well, because I know, especially in Wales, where I've interviewed many wrestlers across that scene, it's a very connective scene as well, that everyone talks to each other, everyone helps each other, wherever you're one show or another, there is that connective tissue, a part of it. For yourself, Alex, was it about the Welsh scene that is so special that it gives it this connectivity between wrestlers and promotions?
Oh, I mean, there's so many promotions on the Welsh scene now. Like it's massive, and I hear a lot of people talking, saying like I don't think it's ever been this substantial, the Welsh scene. Like there's always been something in Wales, and now for what it is, you've got so many promotions, and they do interconnect really well, because a lot of people who are in these promotions are in other promotions in Wales. Like I cross over so many people from just working like a few promotions in Wales. So you got like, obviously I'm going to put the compliment out there straight away. You've got someone like New Wave. Obviously I train there, and I know so many people there, and it feels like almost like a hub at the moment for Welsh wrestling in the largest sense, because so many people who are in so many places in Wales and in England already train there, like the Cardiff one, the Newport one, and even Midlands. You factor in Midlands this as well. They come down and they travel 2 hours, and yeah, it is just such a pleasant scene to be a part of. And there's so many good people on here. There's so many good talents on here, but generally there's just so many like nice locker rooms to be in. And I think it just makes all the difference in terms of, wanting to be in wrestling, especially in Wales.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, especially with New Wave, it is, I think the best way you described it is a hub of the Welsh scene. I've interviewed obviously Mark Andrews, who leads the training down at Cardiff, obviously alongside Splits McPins. I know obviously the Midlands has got Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Haskins, and obviously Brendan White and Daniel Luna. They pop in sometimes and do classes as well. It is phenomenal. I look at in the Scottish scene in comparison of how Scotland, it's maybe a bit more, you stay at one school, you learn at one school, then you thrive off to another place. But I feel like with the Welsh scene, you get that terminal essence where you could fly or travel over to another school, develop your skills, come back and do another one. But you have so many talented individuals to learn from. I mean, as the names obviously I've mentioned that I've done stuff for New Wave, what is it about some of the big names that give their time to provide lessons that have really benefited yourself?
I mean, I don't know where to start with that, because they've, like, so many of them have done so much for me. So to give you kind of the scope of it, I started training with New Wave around the end of 2023, and then 2024 was this is where I should be. And I remember being at the end of 2023 and kind of being in a midpoint of, do I want to carry on wrestling? And it was nothing to do with wrestling as a whole. It was just my own personal, do I want to keep doing this? I had a lot of setbacks. I found like COVID was a big setback, and as soon as I came back from COVID, I got injured and I was out for 6 months. And I lost a lot of work because of that. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of was very in and out of being, I was very in and out of training and performing from that point onwards for quite a while. And I had some great matches in that time frame, but I felt like I was never really hitting my stride. And so end of 2023, I started going to New Wave, and I started training with Brendan and Wild Boar, so Mike Hitchman and Danny and everyone. And it just changed a lot. Like, Brendan has done so much for me. Like, I will compliment Brendan White right now, and he's probably going to look at this and go, oh, not swearing, but he actually completely changed my perspective on wrestling, because I found wrestling to be quite stressful. I was always putting a lot of pressure on myself, and the main thing he turned to me and said, and it's the lesson that has stuck with me and always will, was wrestling is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And if you're not having fun, then you're not doing it in the right way. And I remember him saying it and me thinking like, well, yeah, but I need to be amazing or and actually it completely changed the way I look at wrestling, and completely changed the way I looked at myself in wrestling and how I wanted to wrestle. So it's not even as much to do with the quality of the actual training, which is superb, because you're training with world-class athletes. It's also the other things behind the scenes that they'll talk to you and say, hey, listen, you get your feedback and you get like really good notes from people, but also you have guys like Brendan saying to you, it's meant to be fun, enjoy it, don't treat it like it's, his words to me were, you don't get paid enough to treat this like it's, your main big job. You're not in WWE at the end of the day. Like, you're not main event in WrestleMania to be paid millions like The Rock or something. You're going out and you're trying to have fun. And it's true. It is the truest statement. And I can never fault him for that, to be honest with you. So
I truly do believe in that statement as well, Alex. I feel like not only from wrestlers but podcasters that are involved with wrestling is that they take it 100% seriously. And I'm honestly not critiquing that you shouldn't take something that you love and have a passion for seriously, but like when you're at 100%, like I have to do it this way or it has to be do that way, or you're at a podcast critiquing a show but you're going 100% mile an hour and saying this person shouldn't be hired at this company, or this shouldn't work this way, or change that storyline that way, you're not really just having fun, you're over critiquing it when you really in all essence don't have the establishment to give a valid critique. Of course you could have an opinion on something, but critique should be made for obviously the people who do this full time, whether they work in the WWE or AEW. If they're working in that scene, their opinion should matter more than just some random guy with a podcaster in the mum's basement.
Yeah.
Digressing on that point, that's just how sadly some people are. But obviously, I know especially well, Alex, with obviously the Welsh scene, a lot of the people in there travel and go other places. And I know you went to OTT with Tommy Brill, Big Bubba, and James Ellis, right?
I did, yes. May last year.
Oh, wow. I mean, OTT is a fun company. I've interviewed people who've done that, obviously, from the likes of Sesh Mock Martina to old Hyper Man CJ West as well. For yourself, what was it like going over there with those three other guys for OTT?
Oh, it was fantastic. Just a great all-round. I think I was the first international across the pond kind of booking I'd done, or any work I'd done. So we did the camp. So they have the contender camp, which is 3 days. And so we did the full 3 days, trained a lot. We met a lot of people. It was just a really nice place to be in, and just a really good group of people. And we all ended up getting on the show in some way capacity on the third day. So, we got an OTT debut under our belt, which was lovely. Can walk away and smile with that one. It was interesting because I think it was just a different way of training again, compared to what I've done with most other places. They're very focused on character, which I found really interesting, because not a lot of places are as focused on having a lot of characters. Some places are focused on having a good split of characters and wrestlers, and this OTT were just be a character or do some comedy, and we were like, oh, okay. Then they had to do promos and things like that, and it was just it was a really good, interesting kind of few days, and a lot of Guinness, obviously. I mean, we're not going to go to Scotland, Scotland Island, and not drink a shed load of Guinness over there, because get the opportunity.
Hey, you got the opportunity, you got to take it. I mean, Guinness is a final drink. I'm more of a Scotch guy myself, but that's just the genetics there. That's
fair. I got a Celt, so I think I want a bit of I think the Guinness is in my blood a little bit now. So
hey, well done, son, well done. It is fascinating. Also, you talk about how there's more of the character focus. And I think with especially character-based wrestlers in the UK, we have such a wide variety that are so catchy and appealing. You know, you think of Session with Martina with the drinking aspect and the party light-up shoes. You think of Cara Noir, the Black Swan aesthetics he does in Progress. You obviously have Tate Mayfair's greatness is everything in his sort of styling. Do you think, obviously, with the names I mentioned and many great more, what is it that some UK wrestlers and their character work really sticks out to you as like that is the epitome of a great character?
So if I've got to pinpoint someone who I think is probably one of the most top tier characters in the UK, especially, and it's just a personal opinion, this is not the gospel to anyone. For me, it's Charles Crowley. Someone who I kind of saw one day and thought, oh, this is cool. This guy looks cool. And then when I looked into his work, and it's the promos for me. Mm-hmm. There's something completely next level about the way he delivers his promos. And yeah, like I think a lot of people can show off a character, and I think a lot of people can have a character, but I think it takes a lot to kind of completely absorb yourself and be that character. And whenever I see Crowley do a promo, or I see Crowley do something in the ring, or I see him with a microphone in hand, I feel like I'm watching the actual character that he is at that point. Like, I'm not watching someone trying to be a character. I'm watching this person who is a real person, like, deliver a promo to me. It's insane. Like, I've never, there's, as you said, like Cara Noir, I think he's phenomenal as well. I think Moth's phenomenal, but there's just something so specific about Crowley that just pulls me in and goes, oh my God, like every word he says, I'm just sat there like listening. And like recently I got asked like, oh, are there people, you know, some names you want to wrestle? And like first name I put up, I was like, Charles Crowley. I want to wrestle Charles Crowley, please. Straight away.
The twat versus the vanity one, I think that would be quite a fun matchup there. I mean, styling and profiling, see which one can outstyle the other. Obviously, as we talked about you going over to OTT in Ireland, but you also went to Germany like in November of last year as well?
Did, yeah. WXW. Yeah.
I mean, it's a fair play to that. That's a hell of an achievement, obviously. That's, you know, Ireland is just, you know, a skip across the pond, but Germany is, you know, another whole country in itself. I remember I spoke to you know, some other Welsh wrestlers that have gone over there and done moments. I've seen that Aluna's went over there as well.
I went with her. Yeah, there we go.
A fun experience there. For yourself, what was it about Germany in particular that you knew you had to take the opportunity to go there and learn?
I mean, I'm kind of very in the mindset now of any kind of travel opportunity I get to go and perform in any country, I will take. Like, I know this year I've got a few that I'm definitely trying to do, and I've got one or two lined up that I'm going to. But Germany, everyone knows what WXW is, and I think like it's not understated how big they are in Europe. And even just getting to go and be on one of their academy shows is an opportunity like no other, because you've just wrestled on one of the biggest promotions in Europe. You know, Ludwig Kaiser came out like a week later on one of their shows, just casually walked in, and that's insane. Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity, and it was just a good group of people to be around. And I got to wrestle actual, you know, international talent as well, which, you know, not some people won't get as much of an opportunity to do that. There's some people who won't even get the opportunity to travel to Germany. And so when the opportunity came up and they said, hey, you want to do this? I was never going to turn it down, no matter how much money I had in my wallet or, you know, how much time I had. I knew as soon as it got given, I was like, yes, please, I will be on the flight to go out there. And it was so worth it. Like, it was great. You know, not a lot of sleeping, but, you know, it was worth it just to have that opportunity to be. Their academy is phenomenal as well. Like, they've got such a nice setup and everything. And we got to do a Survivor Series tag match, which is just fun in all rights, to be fair.
Hey, I mean, that's the thing, you know, opportunities come, but you don't know what they could benefit you if you don't take them. And sometimes they could be truly 100% beneficial, and then sometimes they're a learning point. You will gain something from anything in life, but you won't know that until you actually decide to take it and then run with it. And you've been rewarded with your Germany experience, and that's something great to see. And I see other countries doing great things with wrestling, you know, from the likes of obviously Dubai, Singapore, even China has a bit of a scene going on right now, which is absolutely mental to think about how worldwide wrestling truly is. Is there a particular country in your mind, just because of how it presents itself with its style or its scene, that really appeals to you, to yourself, Alex, that you really want to go over and give a shot?
I think probably one of the main ones I do want to do, and it's kind of cliche because I think a lot of people maybe say it because of what's there. I think for me, it's kind of the US. I do want to do a lot of the US kind of circuits. I think they kind of focus a lot more on kind of character and maybe more kind of indie-rific things sometimes in some places. So it's kind of a place I would like to go and kind of travel around different states as well. Japan is also another one, but Japan is kind of one that I want to build up to a point where I'm like, I know I'm 100% ready to do this, because I know Japan is a challenge for a lot of people. I know a lot of people who've done it, and they say like it's amazing, but you know, you will get humbled quite a lot. So it's one that I definitely want to do when I know I'm like, I'm ready for this one. Like, this is the one I'm ready for now. And if the opportunity ever came up, I would be on it completely. So,
hey, Japan's a great place, and you've seen people from other countries that are not from Japan thrive there. You know, obviously you have past people like obviously Osprey, Kenny, and the Bucks with the Elite, but more recently you're seeing people like Gabe Kidd. You know, somebody a lot of people maybe in the international circuit weren't aware of, but dude made he made a fucking statement with that match against Kenny Omega, and that's somebody that, you know, wrestled in the UK with Rev Pro with like the likes of Jay Joshua. Like, guy's fucking insane.
Yeah, he's mad.
Oh god, I mean, does that really speak to you, Alex, of how UK wrestling really breeds great talent from like something with Gabe Kidd, Osprey, to our very own with, you know, Michael Oku in Progress? Like, what is it about UK wrestling? Is it just the environment? Is it the nice water instead of, you know, absolute piss water that they drink in the States that just gives us such great talent?
I don't know. Like, it's wild at the moment seeing so many people, or you know, seeing so many names that might have just been local names to you at some point. Like, you talk about like Will Ospreay. I can remember them promoting Will Ospreay to wrestle in Cardiff on one of the Attack shows back like 8 years ago. And then you turn around now and you're like, oh my god, yeah, Will Ospreay, you know, formerly one of the biggest names in Japan, but also now massive name on AEW TV every week. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think there's obviously like a quality of training that is given in the UK from a lot of people. And I think what's so great about the UK, even though it is a massive place, everything you want to learn, or all the places you want to train are within some kind of distance that you can drive there within a few hours. Whereas like if you're in the US, you know, if you're in Chicago and you want to go train with Pete Dunne in Florida, you're looking at like 6 hours on a flight, if you're lucky. And it's not cheap. So I think that's kind of a thing with the UK, is that it's so within distance of each other that you can travel around and take in information from so many different coaches and so many different people and so many different wrestlers that you almost are able to build yourself to be the absolute best version of yourself. And I think that's what's maybe kind of happened in the last few years, that just a lot of people have just learned so much from so many different people that now they are just at the top of their game.
Really, truly are at the top of their game, and I'm sure in 2025 we'll see the Vane one up there as well, claiming over the Welsh scene and just truly leaving an impact.
Slowly but surely.
I'm 100% sure, my brother. Well, Alex, I much appreciate you for dealing with my broken ass, returning from all this malarkey and being back here on the Soul Sessions. So it's a pleasure to have you deal with my ass, my friend. But before we go, obviously, one final question, Alex. I would love to know, obviously, AEW and New Japan have their Forbidden Door event coming up here. You know, it's going to be in London. It's going to be a great spectacle. I'm sure of that, no doubt. But, you know, the Forbidden Door, it can open up to the UK scene. I think, you know, if it's here, why not open it up? Is there any particular UK names from all over the country that you would like to maybe get a shine on the AEW Forbidden Door card?
Oh, I don't think I can count Michael Oku because he's kind of already debuted on Dynamite. But if you're really pushing me, someone like Connor Mills, I think, is a really good fit for kind of AEW. And, you know, I've been able to do a 7-hour Mills, and I've seen him wrestle, and he's also one of the people that I want to wrestle this year. He thoroughly deserves it. Like, he's literally one of the best in the UK. So that'd be a great person to step into that position, I think.
Well, excitement all around. Let's show the UK and everywhere else what kind of wrestling scene we've got, because it's fucking fantastic. Well,
True.
Of course, folks, remember, if you love what you've heard of the Flawless Vanity One, you will find his Instagram down in the description below, where you can click it, give him a follow, see his journey, and, you know, get to see where he gets up to next. And he's got some nice merch as well, so make sure to get that added into your t-shirt stocks as well. Well, folks, I will continue to rest up in the hyperbolic time chamber. See you guys whenever I'm next. But again, thank you, everyone, and pleasure as always tuning in for another episode of the Soul Sessions.
Now I'm out there here and gonna live like animals do. No more laws and no more rules.